Yes. The lives of the three Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Our devotional reading is found in Daniel 3, 1 through 11. Background reading is found in Exodus 24, 20 and 4, that is, and Daniel 1, 6 through 7. Daniel 2, 4, 9, Daniel 3, 24 through 25, Matthew 4 and 10, Matthew 5, 11 through 12, and 2 Timothy 3 and 12. Our central verse, if it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O King. Daniel 3 and 17. Let's begin with our devotional reading, Daniel 3, 1 through 11. I will read that. I will ask someone else to read the next reading. Amen. Next two readings, and then so on. Amen. Daniel 3 and 1. Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold, whose height was 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. And he set it in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together the princes, the governors, and the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces, to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Then the princes, the governors and captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then an herald cried aloud, to you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at the time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king has set up. And whoso falleth not down and worshipeth shall the same hour be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and all the kinds of music, all the people, the nations, and the languages fell down and worshiped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Wherefore at that time certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. They spake and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the flute, cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoso falleth not down and worshipeth, that he should be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Who will start reading Exodus 20 and 4? Meshach. but we'll read Daniel 2:49 and also Daniel 3:24 and 25. Just stand and read. All right, Matthew 4:10 and also Matthew 5:11 through 12. Matthew 5:11 through 12. All right. 2 Timothy 3 and 12. All right, our introduction. The Jewish nation has always been taught to give praise and honor to God all the time. They were taught to never allow any gods to come before the true and living God. They were taught that if they could not make it to the temple in Jerusalem, to just look toward Jerusalem and continue to lift their voices in prayer to the Father. At this time in history, Jerusalem was invaded, and many of the Jews were taken into captivity to Babylon. The prophet had prophesied that they would be in bondage for at least 70 years. Among the captives were several young men, including Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Because of their faithfulness to God and godly principles, they had been promoted by the king, King Nebuchadnezzar, within the kingdom of Babylon over Babylonian affairs. Believers throughout the ages have been taught that they must never worship nor give praise to other gods except the God of heaven, nor to give honor to idols. We've been taught that from the beginning in this Christian faith, that we don't lift up anybody, anything, any object, amen, any process up higher than God himself. Amen. The old folks had it right. They would go to church. You didn't have to beg them to come to church on Sunday. Amen. You don't have to beg them to come to service at night on Sunday. You you didn't have to beg them to come to a prayer and Bible band. You didn't have to beg them to come to prayer. Amen. Didn't have to beg them to come to pastoral service. That was automatic. And they even had a saying that before I fail to do this, I add a little more to it. I know y'all heard that because I heard it in my youth. Before I fail to do this, I'll add a little more to it. These young men, and they were young men, amen. It said that they may have been as young, some of them as in their teens. They took a stand for God. That's why they're referred to as the Hebrew boys and not the Hebrew men. They're the Hebrew boys. They were young men who absolutely understood emphatically and believed without doubt that the God that they served was able to do anything. And this is before Christ came. Amen? We're not even talking about Christ being born and the glory that he would bring upon not only the Jewish folks, but the whole world. Yeah, they took a stand. Nebuchadnezzar was set at fury because these 3 young men defied him. Told him, we're not careful to answer you in this matter, O king. O king, live forever, but we're not going to bow down to your image. We're not going to bow down to the God that someone formed with their hands. We need to be of like mind. We need to stop, if we do, lifting up anything before God. Thou shalt have no other God before me. God is a jealous God. If you spend more time doing anything more than you spend time doing things for God, you're in trouble. Yeah, you're in trouble. We need to go back. You know, the old folks had it right. They said, let's go back to the old landmark. Sometimes we blew right past the old landmark, and we're no longer doing what is naturally required of us by virtue of us having a strong commitment to God. Amen? Yeah, they used to say it. I need God more than I need my necessary food. Didn't they say it? They would say it. And not only say it, they would do it. Yeah. I remember when I was still working, this is going back years ago, the pastor would say, I'm calling a fast. He didn't have to beg nobody to fast. He said the pastor called the fast. That was it. Amen? Now you call a fast and people say, well, you know, Pastor, I can't fast. They just about tell you, I can't fast. Amen? Yeah, thou shalt have no other God before me. We trying when we do things like that, we're trying to get closer to God. We're trying to get to his ear where he will hear us and answer. Amen. The world is in trouble. The world's in trouble. I'm so glad that the Supreme Court had the wisdom today to overturn Mr. Trump's edict to not give legalized standing to people who were born here, even if their parents came from another country. Now, if he goes back far enough into his heritage, his folks came through Ellis Island. People forget. Yeah, we didn't have the luxury of coming through Ellis Island. They boated us in and stacked us in like cords of wood on ships and said, yeah, you come in here with your dark self, you're going to be a slave till you die. We need to look back. And when they said that, I said they finally got something right. Amen? Some of those very folks who sit on the Supreme Court had relatives. They went back as far as 3 generations. They came through Ellis Island in New York. Immigrants on ships, boats. Amen? They came here. They were from Italy and Yugoslavia and Czechoslovakia. Come on. But God has blessed us. It's of his mercies that we're not consumed. He has made ways for us. God did. Our ancestors never thought they would live in houses, that we would live in houses, the houses we live in. Never thought it. Never could have imagined it. They didn't own their houses, most of them. When we talk about our ancestors going back, they were sharecroppers, which meant that they were next thing to a slave. Essentially, they were slaves because they worked and got very little return for the labor they put in. But God has blessed us. We came, Deacon Boone, you came here. What year did you come here? 1954, we came here. This was like Beulah land. You could go to your job, mind your business. Yeah, racism was still alive and well. But you could legally go to your job and work and get paid essentially the same money that everybody in the plant was making. And then you could buy your house wherever you chose if it wasn't red line. You know, Detroit had a lot of red lines. See, we got to read our history. See, back when Deacon Boone come here in 1952 in Detroit, you could live in the Black Bottom. You could buy a house in the Black Bottom. That was it. You couldn't live west of Woodward Avenue. No, Dearborn was out of the question. I'm talking about Detroit now. You couldn't live, you could live in the Black Bottom. And then, to show you how much they really thought about you, and as I wrap up, they let you buy all the houses in the Black Bottom, right? And as soon as the white folks decided they needed a freeway, they tore all of the houses up in the Black Bottom. But God's still making ways. God is still opening doors for us. He's still making ways. We got our life, our health, and strength. Some of us retired and make more money retired than we did when we were working because we don't spend as much. Amen? Somebody say, God is so good. God bless you. Come on, Sister Teacher.